Okay, it's now time to work on our modes and our modal scales. The explanation of a mode basically is just a scale based on each degree of the major scale. So in other words, if you're going to play a major scale, if you start on the second degree of that scale and go up to the octave of that degree, you've created another scale using the notes of the original major scale, and thus you have your second mode. The third mode. All right, so there we go. The modes are called Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. The important thing about knowing these modes is that not only are they related to their parent major scale, but each individual mode and modal scale has its own harmonic use in improvisation, jazz improvisation, and just harmonically in general. The Ionian mode is basically just the major scale, so all the applications that you can use your major scale with. Dorian mode is going to be basically called a Dorian minor scale. It's sort of really become in jazz, if you ask me, the most common minor scale because it encompasses it uses the flat third and the flat seventh. So you use the Dorian minor scale over, most minor, minor chords. So the Phrygian mode, again, we're relating in the key of C. So the Phrygian mode, if you are originating from C major, is E Phrygian. And if you look at its arpeggio, the arpeggio is minor. But the Phrygian scale has a particular sound to it. You have that flat second, and that's the main difference between, I guess, a Phrygian scale and a natural minor scale, because you also have the flat sixth and the flat seventh as well. So, but it creates its own cool sound. And if you base your improvisations on a scale, it's not like you're running the scale up and down verbatim, but you're using the notes from that scale to create your phrases. It creates kind of a cool sound, and that flat second would be considered a passing tone. So if you're going to sit on that flat second, if you're playing in E minor, for instance, and you use an E Phrygian scale, again, that F, that second degree, is going to rub a little bit if you don't consider it like a passing tone. Good. The fourth mode, or the fourth degree of a C major scale, would be Lydian, F Lydian, and it's the same as a major. It's got a major triad as its as its skeleton or its arpeggio. Again, these are all notes from the original parent key, and our parent key for these are C. So the cool thing about the Lydian scale is that it's going to incorporate that raised or sharp fourth. And so in a fourth, in harmonic terms, an octave higher would be the 11th. So you would see, if you're going to use a Lydian scale in a harmonic context, play over a particular chord, the chord you'd want to use that over would be a major 7 sharp 11 chord. So. So, and very often if you're playing a major chord over a major chord and you use that sharp 11, it works. It's one of those what we used to call, still call, an available tension. Tensions are the notes that aren't found in the chord itself, but are the notes that you can alter in the chord that make it sound, various different ways of making it sound different or interesting. The fifth degree, or the fifth mode, is our Mixolydian mode, and that is the mode that works the best over dominant chords. So if you're playing a blues, that's your go-to scale, go-to chord scale, because it works over dominant chords. You have that flat seventh on top, and then the rest of the arpeggio is the natural third and the natural fifth, just like in a regular arpeggio. The sixth degree is our Aeolian degree, or Aeolian mode, I should say. And that's basically a natural minor scale. So again, you're starting on the sixth degree of the C major scale, and the scale itself sounds like this. Right, so the arpeggio is a good old straight up minor arpeggio with a flat third, natural fifth, and flat seventh, and works over any minor chord. So you can go, the great thing about modes in general and thinking about them this way is that you always want to keep its parent scale in mind. And by doing that, it's easier for me to do that than to think about each mode individually in its own key. You want to, because it does become its own tonal center. But to know the notes of these modes, it helps, again, to think of where they originated from, because that way, if you know for instance, your C major scale, then you know all 7 of these scales, because you already know the scale that those modes came from. So by learning your major scales, you're also doing yourself a great service without perhaps realizing it, you're learning your modes. So, so again, our Aeolian, or the sixth degree, or the sixth mode, Aeolian mode, is that mode that starts in the sixth degree of a major scale. The last mode is our Locrian mode. It starts on the 7th degree of any major scale. And that scale is used over minor 7 flat 5 chords. It can be used over all kinds of different things, but if you see a minor 7 flat 5, very often, like for instance, I'm sure you've heard of the 2-5-1 progression. If that 1 is a minor 1, a minor chord, then very often the 5 preceding it is usually has a flat 9, because it just harmonically or melodically sounds correct, to add that flat 9 over that 5 chord. And then the 2 chord of the 2-5-1 usually is written and played as a 2 flat 5. And so the Locrian scale encompasses that flat 5. So again, referring back to the parent key, which is C major, the 7th degree of that C major scale is B. And by using the notes of our parent scale, again, if I play that B Locrian scale, the arpeggio is B, D, F, and A natural. So if you look at each degree, that you've got the root, and then the flat third, and then the flat fifth. So here we are. So if you had a B minor 7 flat 5 chord, you've got your minor in the third, and you've got the flat 5 too. So your Locrian mode is going to be very useful over minor 7 flat 5 chords. So there you go. Okay, so there's a basic explanation of our modes there. As always, it's important to drill those modes right into your brain and right into your fingers and create an exercise in the process. So I have written all the modes out for you in each key. So it's going to take up half the paper in your printer, but it's 12 pages of modal scales. And So what we're going to do is play, I've divided them up into keys because I really do feel, again, that the parent key that all the modes come from is really important to keep in mind because, again, if you know the parent key of each mode, then you're going to know the scales and be able to play those scales much more easily. So each of these lessons is divided into 12 parts, one for each of the 12 keys. And as you see there, I've got 12 played on an E-flat instrument, my alto here, and 12 played on a B-flat instrument. I've got my soprano over there. So I'm going to start off here on alto and play them along with me. I'm going to play, you know, for our purposes, just, you know, I think we'll be able to make it through okay. We're going to need to take breaths here and there, so there'll be a pause in the middle. But basically, we'll just play them down. And I have my metronome set at 150, and play them along with me.